Good evening. I ask you to take your seats, please. I'm Ted Greenwood, and on behalf of the Center for Adult Jewish Learning here at Temple Israel, and on behalf of the New Israel Fund, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome all of you into this space and into this important conversation. As we all know, these are very difficult times in Israel and here. Outrages that a few years ago would have been unimaginable are now everyday events and often seem to be accepted as normal by large numbers of people. Nowhere has this been more true than in the West Bank, with new outrages every day. We've all read the reports and we've seen the footage. However, not all Israelis have been accepting as normal these outrages in the West Bank, perpetrated by settlers and often supported by others inside and outside the government. This evening, we have the privilege of hearing from some of those Israelis who have not accepted these outrages as normal. Because I'm an active member here at Temple Israel, including a former member of the board, and one of the leaders of what we call Temple Israel's Progressive Israel Caucus, and because I'm also a longtime supporter of the New Israel Fund and a member of its regional council here in New England, this evening is very personal for me. I am delighted that the New Israel Fund and Temple Israel are jointly sponsoring this conversation, and I am especially pleased to have each of you here to participate. In a moment, I will pass the microphone to Jasmine, who is NIF's Director of New England, who will introduce our speakers. But first, I want to acknowledge and thank the other congregations and organizations that are co-sponsors of this event. Boston Friends of Standing Together, Congregation Dorsey Sedek, Hebrew College, J Street, Sinai Brookline's Israel-Palestine Affinity Group, Temple Beth Zion, Temple Shalom, the Alliance for Middle East Peace, and Truah, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights. Many thanks to all of these wonderful congregations and organizations for co-sponsoring this evening. And now, Jasmine?
Thank you so much, Ted. Can you all hear me okay? Great. As you heard from all of our co-sponsors, this is truly a community event, and NIF is really grateful to be bringing this conversation in partnership with each of those organizations and with all of you. And thank you to our speakers for traveling here from Israel, and especially in the last couple of days. It's hard to be far away from home, I'm sure. A little bit of background. Since 1979, the New Israel Fund has been working to build an Israel that is equal, safe, and democratic for all who live there. We run programs and fund and support organizations and activists working to advance democracy, human rights, peace, and justice. There can be no lasting democracy while millions of people live under Israeli control without civil rights. There can be no sustainable peace or security while violence, dispossession, and terror continue to shape daily life for Palestinians in the West Bank. There must be no occupation. Since October 7th, we have seen a dramatic escalation in violence in the West Bank, as you heard from Ted. Palestinian communities facing increasing attacks and displacement at the hands of extremist settlers. IDF soldiers often doing nothing or even supporting settler actions. NIF has been driving efforts to protect human rights in the West Bank through legal advocacy, public education, media, coalition building, and grassroots organizing. We've also played a leading role in supporting and coordinating protective presence activists. This evening, you will hear from 3 such activists, Amazing individuals, young people who have chosen courage. They have stepped forward to accompany vulnerable communities, document abuses, deter violence, and provide a measure of safety where Israeli government institutions have failed. You can say lightly. Yeah. The three Israelis we have the privilege of hearing from tonight were able to travel to Boston to be with us. But their partners and our partners in this work, Palestinian peace activists in the West Bank, are not able to do that. So we put together a video to bring at least one voice into this conversation. We'll hear from Eid Hathalin, a Palestinian artist and activist from al-Khair, who really wanted to be here. Last time he was in the US, he was denied entry at the airport and his valid visa was canceled on site. This is an intense topic, and so the video has images of violence. Please take care of yourselves. And so now let's watch and listen to Eid's story.
I am Eid Suleiman Hadalina from the village of al-Khair, located in the southern part of the West Bank. I am a father and peaceful activist to try to document what's going on in the area. I would love to be with you, dear friends. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your efforts to show what's happening in the occupied territories to the world. Thank you. al-Khair is a community who suffer and pay a lot of price by staying in their land nearby the settlement Carmel, which built in the 80s and then expand all over and surrounded our place, al-Khair, from all sides. We have subtle violence happened all these years from our neighbors. Sometimes you have 5 attacks in the same day. They shoot human beings, they shoot also animals, not accountable, not being investigated. And the idea just to expel us out of here and then expand Carmel more and more. In the last recent years, they used a new tactic of violence. They built inside the village itself. They built an outpost inside our community, and they opened roads in our community land, which are private ones. They try to make our life much harder in this community, and then people leave. Protective prison is the most important thing we achieve in Masafriyat and South Hebron Hills, and in al-Khair in specific. Protective prison is the key that helping families nowadays to stand and stay in their homes around the area of the occupied territories. Our friends, they do a lot of tremendous job with activists. I mean, it's a work of years of knowing each other. It's been like family members of us. And they do all this work together to sustainable the life of the simple Palestinian farmers who try to live in peace in their land and their place. When I saw activists quickly jumping to the scene of the attack or the action happened by settlers and the army, I feel safe a little bit. Even though the activists get a lot of attacks by settler movement and the army itself. I feel there is some safety here with these guys standing with their cameras and standing with the families, holding some people, holding some kids while their families attacked. The protective prison is very important key for resisting in a non-violent way. I rely on this, and a lot of communities and Palestinians rely on the activists and protective prison for the area. I'd like to ask my friends to help and push more to their politics levels and always remind them something wrong happened in the occupied territories in the Holy Land and should be fixed, should be ended. I wish for myself and for every human being who live in Israel and Palestine to live in peace and dignity and safety and recognize the other's rights to be, exist and live nearby each other as human beings, Palestinians and Israelis. I hope so. We achieve it one day.
Hi, guys. Are your microphones on? So, as a form of introduction, I'm going to ask each of our speakers a question, and then we'll go through and I'll ask them some more questions, and then we'll have time for Q&A from all of you. We're going to start with Maya Mark. Maya, you serve as NIF's coordinator for the Protective Presence program, and you also participate in Protective Presence yourself. Tell us a bit about yourself, and then what draws you to this work, both personally and professionally.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well? Okay. So my name is Maya Mark, and I work in NIF for the last year. Like Yasmin said, I coordinate the Protective Presence Support Program. I live in Haifa, and I was born in Neve Shalom, Wahat al-Salam, which is a Jewish Arab community in Israel. I'm also an Arabic teacher and an activist, a Protective Presence activist. I started doing the activism 7 years ago when me and a friend opened a program for Jewish Israeli activists to, an intensive Arabic course for Israelis to come to the West Bank and spend 3 months there learning Arabic and participating in the Protective Presence activity. We started 7 years ago, and the program is still running till today. I think what draws me to this work, I think very fast it became from something that I do because it's the right thing to do, because I felt that it's the right thing to do. I think very fast it became something I do because of the connections and relationships that I have in the area. My activism is in Masafriata, in Al-Khair is one of the villages in Masafriata. I'm very connected to these communities and other communities in the area, to people there that became like my best friends. And I think very fast I started caring about this cause because of the people that were there, and because my mind was constantly busy with what is going on with them, and what is the daily struggle that for me was like something like pretty amorphic before, or like maybe very big, became something very concrete and personal. And I think professionally, I did this work for 6 years as an activist, and started working in NIF a year ago. And 7 years ago, we weren't very many people that were doing it, maybe a few dozens. And the last 3 years, we can really see and feel a big change on the ground, and a movement that is growing of Israelis that come and join this activity, this type of activism, this struggle. I was very used to like doing this as a minority without a lot of people, and I think there is a moment here that we need to use the momentum that is now on our table, and make this work more efficient, make this work more powerful, have more people come and do it. And I felt that, going to trying to find other places other than just being on the ground was the right way to support this work.
Amazing. Thank you. Roei, you grew up in the religious Zionist community, and today identify as part of the faithful left and are active in Bnei Avraham, which all of those draw inspiration for social and political activism from Judaism and Jewish tradition and values. Tell us a bit about yourself and what role your religious identity plays in your activism.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Roei. I'm 32. I live in Jerusalem. I grew into a modern Orthodox family, but in a ultra-religious Zionist environment and community. And I went through a journey in my life. I learned in a yeshiva called Otniel. Otniel is in the southern Hebron Hills. It's a very unique yeshiva. On one hand, it's very pluralistic. On the other hand, it's in a very extreme place. When I learned there, I think I was blind to some things who were around me. This blindness was not because I had bad values, it's because I couldn't really see the things that is happening around me, and I had to open my eyes in a way that is not accessible to people who grow in this kind of environment. So at the last years, I founded a midrasha, a theological political institute called Hamidrasha Emunit, and it's a place that allows people like me to grow through the same transformation. We learn there, on one hand, Torah, the small Emunit Torah, a Torah of compassion, equality, justice. On the other hand, we deeply learn about the conflict, about the Palestinians, about the way they live, because many Israelis, especially the one who grew in an environment like me, they are not acknowledged, and this lack of knowledge is leading to fear and to rage, and therefore to all kinds of decisions. You ask about the role that religion plays in my activism. So I'm not active despite my Judaism. I'm active because of my Judaism. When I look deeply and try to understand why HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why God decided that I would be born at this specific place at this specific time, I understand that there is something that I need to do, and that the Jewish deed, the mitzvah to do, is to go to protective presence. We are facing a huge Chilul Hashem, a huge...
Desecration.
Yes, thank you. But I think you understand, Chilul Hashem. You know, I see, just lately, last Shabbat, we had pictures of a tender with settlers masked entering a village and hitting and pogroming Palestinians there. And if you look deeply, you'll see they have a tzitzit coming out of their pants. And that breaks my heart to see it, because it's a misuse of something that is so precious to me. And it makes, and I don't want to give up on these parts of on their identity. And this is why I feel we have the we're in a war on the face of Judaism. And if we want to do Kiddush Hashem, so we need to be there with our bodies. We need to, like, Martin Luther King said, we pray with our legs. So it's feet on it's boots on the ground, being put there in order to show the Palestinians and the Jewish society a different option.
Thank you. Oh.
Oh.
Thank you, Roei.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm very excited, so excuse me if I'm going to get a bit confused. My name is Or. I'm from Tel Aviv. I'm 30 years old. I started doing protective presence right after October 7. And my connection to this activity started actually back home. My father is basically my connection. My father was an Arab Jew. He's originally born in Morocco. He grew up in Ma'abara, we call it temporary housing, tents, you call it. And I guess that the first time I went and I crossed the green line through the West Bank, I immediately saw the reflection of my family. My father's place is still the same as it was 60 years ago, and he just passed away 2 years ago. So I can see the pain of my father in the Palestinians' eyes. This is how I started to do this activity. And it grew to solidarity and resistance to racism that based on color, based on origin, and supremacy. Yeah, and
Thank
so
you.
many more things came from it, but mostly.
Thank you. Roei, tell us a bit, how has the situation changed in the West Bank since October 7th? And what are Palestinian communities experiencing that most Israeli and American Jews are not seeing?
Okay. So if we'll be accurate, it didn't start in the 7th of October. It started in the elections, maybe before, but for sure
אוי, תחזיר את המיקרופון.
here.
כן.
Okay. It didn't start in the 7th of October. It started with the electing of the most far-right extreme government we ever had. I want to share, I learned it at Yeshiva Tichonit, a high school, a religious high school, that was very, very right-wing. Like Michael Ben-Ari, one of the Ben-Gvir friends, was my teacher. And I remember one of the things he told me back then in Shiur Ezrachut, in a civil lesson, we are all waiting for the historic moment that we can do and take away all the Palestinians for him and lanchil and conquer the land. So it's something we were educated on, and the far right was really ready. They had all the plans written, and they waited for a right moment that the public environment would allow them to assume, to make happen those plans. And I think that's very important to understand. Secondly, so since the 7th of October, actually I can tell you personally that I saw it in my eyes a week after the 7th of October. The settler, and not only the settlers, it was also other branches of the institute, parts of the army, the police, the Minhal Ezrachi, the archaeological institute. All we can number them, were ready, and their plan was at first to deport all the Palestinians. They started with the most vulnerable communities, who are the shepherd communities, because shepherds, if you harass them enough, at some point, they would go up and leave. So the first part of the plan was deporting all shepherd communities and Palestinians from what's called Area C. It's one part of the area. And I want to tell you something sad. This part kind of finished. There is a little few communities left in the northern Jordan Valley, but they had a huge success in making this happen. But they didn't. It's not finished with this. I think now what we are facing now is the second part of the plan. The second part of the plan is moving from the shepherd communities to the farmers, Falachi, and the way it's much more hard to take over farmers from their land. You know, it's their pride, it's their identity. They get this from father to son, this job and this way of how to work the land, and you need to be much more extreme to take from people land if that's what that's their bread and and wine, and the way they provide life for their children. So what's happening now is trying to disconnect, and not only trying, succeeding, disconnecting farmers from their land, from farming their land. The moment you do it, they have no money, they have no food for kids, and the way they use the tactic of using this disconnection from the land is the violence. This violence has two branches, the institutional one and the not institutional one, and they work perfect together because there is some things that the institution cannot do, and therefore you have the guerrilla forces who can make this violence. The violence is making the Palestinian fear from entering their land. And we talk a lot about settler violence, but we need to talk what happened when there is no violence. When there is no violence, there is nishul, there is taking lands. Because many times Palestinians, they see the settlers come and they just go back. They understand they don't want to be shot. So they prefer to give over the land. And then comes the second part, the institutional part. The moment you don't farm your land enough time, the state comes and declares your land as state lands, which what the right-wing understand in Israel is Jewish land. I don't think what it means, but that's how they understand it. It's only Jews allowed to enter here. And the moment it's state land, you can build a legal settlement on the land. And then there is not a lot to do the moment you face this settlement who is legally protected by all the security forces that are supposed to protect the people who live in the land, the Palestinians, but they don't protect them. They protect the stealers, the people who took, as you saw in the video. That's what we're facing. Thank you.
Thank you. That's what we're facing, is how you just ended that. And so, speaking of facing that, will you tell us a bit about how simply being there, your presence, changes a situation? And can you describe a moment when your presence helped prevent violence or de-escalate a situation?
There are many stories, but if I will choose a particular one, there was a day, just a random Monday. I've been in the office working, and suddenly I'm looking at my phone and I see my friend Naif from Ras El Ain Uja sending me this video of settlers in his property, coming with how do you say it?
A tractor plowing.
A plow, but like a bull, but a
Yes, thank you.
plow.
Yes,
A tractor plow.
that one.
Yeah.
To they wanted to put in a new outpost inside their land. They have one outside. It's a huge Magen David. You can see it whenever they want to do something there, or putting rocks one by one and like marking the territory, or putting a huge Magen David as a symbolize we're gonna come. So that day, I was like going to my boss, telling her, something is going on with my mom, I must go. And we, all activists, drove there in 1 hour, like crazy. I went there with my heels, and it's a very rocky situation, so it's not easy. And we came there, even Roei came, right? You've been there. You saw hills. And because we all just left everything we did at that moment and came to the village, we basically stopped the situation. Of course, it's something that, imagine it's happening daily basis. It can happen 3 times a day, multiple areas at the same time. So that was a bit of one of my winnings, one of my
Successes.
successes. Like, it was a good moment.
Thank you. Maya, you mentioned in your introduction that you teach Arabic and that you began an Arabic course for activists. Can you tell us a bit about the language courses that you run in the West Bank, and also a bit about how learning Arabic affects the relationship between the activists and the Palestinian civilians that they're there to support?
Yeah, so we started this program in Masaferiata first. Like, the first reason we did it was because the Palestinians there asked for more activists, and we needed to find a way to bring more activists in order to do the same things that, or try to do the same things that Or was talking about: de-escalate, document, try to stop violence there. But we did it through Arabic learning, and I think for me, it's like building relationships there, because I knew Arabic all my life. It was pretty easy, and it was very important to me to give this skill also to other people, because I felt that it builds something different, something that wasn't really, that didn't really exist back then in activism. Like, most activists in 2020 were older people. They all spoke only Hebrew, and the relationships they had were with Palestinians that spoke Hebrew or Arabic, usually men that...
Or English, Hebrew or English.
Hebrew or English, usually men who maybe worked in Israel or had the chance to study one of the languages, like Eid. And suddenly, when we taught activists Arabic, first of all, the relationships just spread, and we were able to also work with shepherds and farmers who never were a part of, like, decision making with activists, but also women and children. And we had just days, like countless moments of just being with families and building those relationships on a basis of just joy and just shared moments together. And I think there's also, like, for me and for my partners who opened this program, it was also important to, like, I think language, when you learn a language, it really, like, changes you. It adds something to your personality. It shifts something inside of you. And I think it was also important for us that Israelis will be shifted by this activity, and, like, will encourage a model of an activist that is also changed by being in the West Bank. And I think today we can see it, that the younger generation is either speaks Arabic or is learning Arabic. It's a standard today in Masaferiata. It is pretty much a standard to speak Arabic if you're an activist. And I think it really is changing something in the dynamics there.
Amazing. Thinking more about the experiences that you all have as activists in the field, I'd love each of you to think of and share a recent incident that has stayed with you personally. And we'll go down the line this way. So, Roei, will you share with us?
Yes. I would start with something from the lately work, the accommodating of the farmers. One day we have a Google form where you can volunteer to Bnei Avraham. And one day we opened the form, and within the form a Palestinian name. And then we really laughed. And then we called him and I said, hello, Muhammad, do you want to volunteer to Bnei Avraham? And then Muhammad told us, listen, I want to tell you, we live in Khalkhul. Khalkhul is a village north to Hebron. It's the highest mountain in Judea. And their main product is grapes. That's what they make. And lately, there, at the entrance of the valley where we need to enter to the grapes, there is an outpost. There is like hilltop youth. They sat there and they don't allow us get. And they are sitting on my private land. So we said, okay, great, we will come. We came, I remember the first time we came. At the first time we came, we didn't even understand the proportion. We came like 5 activists, and then there was like 200 farmers with the kids and the women. It was like a festival. It was like a local, they were so excited. They can reach the land, and they were all with like a turiot with and we're like, whoa, okay. And then we started walking, and of course, after 5 minutes, like, I don't know, 10 meters, there is always at the entrance, now they put everywhere, the settlers and the army together, they put yellow gates. The yellow gates marks you can go until here, and beyond here, you can't go, although there are private lands beyond there. So we reached there, and we came, and the moment we came, straight from the valley up, came this ranger. These rangers, I want to tell you, they got them, all the settlers, got them as a present from our beloved minister Smotrich, for their good deeds. So they came with this tender down, and they always, what they do, they make a friction. That and so the moment they came, they go out, and it's like 14-year-old kids, and they feel the landlords, and they go in front of you with the gas, pepper gas. We will shoot you with pepper gas. And then like we say, so all the Jews came to the front. We tell them, listen, we want to enter. And after, I don't know, 10 minutes, the army came. And when the army came, they looked at us and they told us, okay, there is tension, so it's a closed zone army, you need to go. And we're like, what? But it's their land and they are illegal. No, it's now closed area zone, you need to go. And they showed us the
The warrant.
a warrant. Okay, so we went back. But we said, okay, we are not going to... And then always after we finished, we always go to Khalkhul to the family, and that's amazing. They make us grape leaves, and we all eat together, and that's a fun part. And then we enjoy and know them. And then we tell them, listen, don't worry, we'll come again and again and again until they let us enter. So that's what we started doing. We started coming every 2 days to the same place. Every time the army is coming. And we don't go against the law. The army tell us to go, we go. But every time we started coming, doubling the activists. First time was 5, then 10, then 20, then 25, more and more. And every time, and slowly, we started bringing with us, and that was crucial, children of the settlers who live nearby. So the
Children of the settlers
yes.
came with you?
Yes, we have a lot of children of settlers that join, not a lot, but we have. And we said we'll bring the children of the settlers and take them with us, and let's see how their parents will react after they see them at the other side. So one time we came with one of our leading activists, amazing, he just finished high school, his name is Naved from Kfar Etzion, and his parents are very known family educators from the area, and he came with his parents, and we had a lot of luck because at the same day with his parents the army came and threw tear gas towards this respected family from the settlement. They were really shocked that's what's happening, and they called the mayor of the region and the settlement and told them, Yaron, what happened? We were with our son, and this happened, blah, blah, blah. And then and then the mayor of the government
Of the local municipal.
of
the local region.
yes, the mayor of the region called the army and told what's happening, and I heard that the army, and then after we did it enough time, the big commander, Avi Blut, he's kind of the prime minister of the West Bank, because he has the authority to decide everything. There was one conference, and in this conference he said, this child waited and voted and said, "Hello, Avi Blut, I know I have friends in Khalkhul and they want to reach their land." And then he said, "Oh, I didn't know about it. The army is acting like this." A week after, the army gave the farmers approve with it's called polygon with areas and send all the farmers to go work their land. So this is a good story, but it's a daily struggle. Most of the time, it's not working. But with nechishut, with coming again and again and again and opening more of the circles, we do see from time to time a change, and that gives us agency.
Thank you. Maya, will you share a recent incident that has stayed with you?
Yeah, I think mine have some success stories, but it's not a success. I was staying in Sapriata for the night, and one of the nights we got a call that settlers have invaded agricultural lands and are burning and breaking buildings, which is something that happens a lot during the day. It doesn't happen a lot during the night, and we decided to go. We hopped into the car, like 2 Israelis and 3 Palestinians, and we drove there in the middle of the night, not knowing exactly what we're going into. But we heard there are like a lot of Palestinians there, and there's a good reason to have some Israelis with them. And when we arrived there, we saw like the burned buildings and the landlords standing there, and we heard there's like a group of settlers, but we didn't really see them because it was dark. And in front of them there was like a line of soldiers protecting them and stopping the Palestinians from reaching the soldiers.
The settlers.
Reaching the settlers, yeah. And it wasn't really clear what we can do there, what are we going to do, but we stood there, and like we always try to do, or we used to do as Israelis, we go to the army and we talk to them, and we demand that they will turn around and go to the settlers and tell them to leave this land. We didn't even ask them to arrest them because it was the middle of the night, and we know there was no chance for that. We just asked them to tell them to go so we can all go, because none of us wanted to be there. And it took like an hour, and they just refused to talk to us, and they were just like standing there in front of us, and it just felt pointless. And then there was this moment when suddenly, I don't know, they got a call or an order, and they all turned around and left. All the soldiers turned around, left, got in their jeeps, and just drove away. And we just stood there with this group of settlers who just burned the buildings there, who were armed, and in the middle of the night. And we were probably 30 people, and we were quickly starting to go back to the cars and leave, because it's always very dangerous to stay there when there's no army. And suddenly we saw stones being thrown at us, and we started hearing gunshots, and people just we couldn't get to our cars, and people were spreading and hiding in places. And I remember there was this moment when I was hiding behind a car, and I really froze, and I couldn't really move. And a Palestinian friend that was there with me was yelling and like pulling me to go with them to the hills and like hide in the hills. And we found ourselves like lying down on the ground and calling the army that left like 5 minutes ago, just calling them again and again, asking them to come, like calling the police, calling the army. And it took them 2 hours to come back. And I think it was really a moment where I felt for the first time like what it means that there's like no one there to protect you. It was like, for me as an Israeli Jew, it was the first moment in my life to feel that. And I think like processing it later was this like understanding that this is an everyday feeling for Palestinians there. So I think that was like a really, like a moment that really shaped my like emotional weight or world like around this work, but also this memory of like being there with the Palestinian partners, with like our friends, and like being in it together, and also like shaped the understanding of how urgent it is to change the situation that we're all in together. Like we're in it together, and we need to fight to get out of this situation together. And I think that was a moment.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. Such an emotional moment. Oh, will you share with us an incident that stayed with you recently?
It actually was recently. And it's a bit hard for me to talk about it because it always this feeling of it's a bit of despair when you go back home. It's easier for me to go to the West Bank than coming back, because I know I have the privilege to go back and forth, and my friends that are hosting me, and every time I'm coming, I'm feeling like home. I cannot give them the same feeling because they cannot come visit me in my place. 2 weeks ago, it was the Eid al-Adha, and I used to be for 2 years with the Ras El Ain Uja, with the community, and they've been expelled from their land. It was the largest shepherd community, and I stayed in touch with a lot of them, and they usually go to areas that we cannot go visit them after. We cannot stay in touch. But one of them, Naif, he went to this area, and it's just in the middle of nowhere. There is nothing. You cannot. He took his herd and his kids, and he went. And I came every week to visit him. I did my protective presence whenever it needed, and I went to visit him after, before, whenever I can, because I wanted to keep in touch. And it's very hard to get to the place that he lives. And I went there with my khilwayat, with a big box with a lot of
Sweets for the holiday.
And I made him this nice photo with his kids in Ras El Ain, and I'm driving there, and the usual way, and suddenly I see something that I am not recognizing, a huge mountain of sand blocking the way that we used to go. And I remember I was with friends. I told them, what are we gonna do? And I'm holding the
box.
I'm holding the bag with the box. Every time I'm talking about it, it's a bit hard. And I'm waiting for him trying to find a way to come and get his gift. I couldn't give up of giving him telling him like, وعند العيد التبحير, I'm
Happy holiday.
Happy holiday. Like I'm learning Arabic, so I'm practicing with him and as well, and then he came, and it's every holiday, it's hosting and food and everything. And there he came with all the kids and his wife in the car from, I don't know, from this mountain. It was a disaster, and I'm standing like this with the bag, and then he's stopping the car, he's opening the back, and I see plates, forks, pots and I said, what are you doing? He said, we're gonna eat. We're gonna celebrate the holiday. And I just started to cry, and I told him, it's not fair. I really wanted to come and sit with you in your tent and be around you and be around, I mean, he has one kid that we have a really special connection because I'm a dancer and she's a dancer and we are dancing together. It's a kind of and then to go back on the car after this thing is happening, it is, because after all, it's not Palestinians or Jews or Arabs or Israelis, it's human beings' connections. And it's the most painful thing to know that somebody is exactly like you cannot do what you're doing. He doesn't have the freedom of movement. So that was my terrible experience from 2 weeks ago.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now we're going to open it up for questions from all of you. My colleagues are going to be walking around with a mic. So think of your questions, take a second, raise your hand when you're ready. I'm going to remind us of a few things. Number one, a question is a sentence that ends with a question mark, not a period. We really want to get to as many questions as possible. I'm also going to say that my colleagues Matt and Hillel are going to hold the mics, and if you don't abide by the rules, they're going to take them away. So please raise your hands. Let's get questions. Yes, let's start with Lane in the glasses. I get a lot of people have glasses, but Matt's going to come over with the mic.
You're going to hold it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wonderful hearing from you. There's always the question of what can we do? You know, condemning this violence. It's not humane. It's not Jewish. It makes me so disappointed in Israel and so sad. But you know, our government is, you know, working on sanctions. I mean, in your experience, running across what's happening there, is that something that is even, you know, remotely gonna work? I mean, other than complete change in Israeli policy and the government?
Elaine, is the question, do sanctions work? Yeah?
Maybe.
Should we answer?
Yes, if you have an answer.
No, are we taking one question and answering?
Yeah, we're going to do one question at a time. Maya.
I think, okay, I there's no research that's, like, I don't know exactly the answer, but it is felt that sanctions do work. We see that settlers that that were sanctioned by the U.S., we saw them less on the ground in the field. Just say that our friend Ode Adalin from El Khair was killed last July by a settler that was sanctioned by the US, and then Trump removed the sanctions, and that's when he also used his gun and murdered Odeh. But also sanctioning organizations, sanctioning groups, like we see that it has an impact. It bothers their work. It makes it slower and harder for them, and we see on the ground the impact of that. Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Let's do over here in the striped shirt. Yes.
I'm allowed to hold it. Okay.
Wasn't the rules, but we'll see how it goes.
All question marks, I promise.
Right.
It's a three-part question, but it's all the same question. You talked about members of Jewish families who live in the West Bank coming and doing protective presence with you. Yes, did I understand that? So there's potentially quote-unquote settler or Jewish residents of the West Bank who could participate in protective presence. There are those who live in the state of Israel proper, and potentially a role for people from Chutz La'aretz, which I know other folks, I think Arik Asherman has been trying to recruit people through Torah Tzedek. So I want to ask, what is the place potentially of Jews living in the Shtachim, Jews living in the state of Israel, and Jews from Chutz La'aretz in increasing your numbers, including those of us who are like not the most physically fit and are not going to be running through the hills of whatever, but would do just about anything to provide this kind of presence.
Okay, I want to be accurate. I said children of settlers. As you know, if you're a child of someone, it doesn't mean you live at the same place your parents live in. It's not that you can't be a settler and go to protective presence. It's just a little minority of numbers. I had this hope at the beginning. I was naive. I thought, oh yes, the settlers will join and it would stop. And you know, in every, even like those bourgeois, liberal settlements who would expect that they would stop, there is from those settlements coming extreme violence. But I believe in education, and most of the children of settlers I'm talking about, they don't live anymore in the settlement. I think that if you want to do a real tshuva, you need to leave the settlement. I used to live in the settlement, and I'm not there anymore. And the moment, you know, your parents are there, I think you are more exposed to the violence, and then you can choose to do a tikkun. And that's about settlers doing protective presence. Inshallah, I hope they will all join, but I don't build on them. Jews from diaspora, from abroad.
Great, you're fine. Microphone's fine. Just keep going.
Okay, yes. So, Americans have tremendous power. We feel it in Israel. Trump stopped the war. Trump released stop now the war. Trump released the Chatufim. The hostages. So I think the main power of American Jews coming to the West Bank is driving the tension towards what's happening there and giving it a stage. And this is why it's super important, and I encourage each one and one of you to come with us or with any other group to the land and join us to protective presence. Of course, there is some things you can't do like us. You have more risk being deported, which happened to our friends. But there is things that you can do which are less risky and will still use your privileges as Americans in order to change the policy of the American government and the Israeli government. What was the third group?
Israeli Jews like you.
What? We need much more people. I promise you, if there would be every Friday, 10,000, we saw it in Kaplan. In Kaplan, there were so many people in the street.
In the pro-democracy movement
In the
before
pro-democracy,
October 7th.
it will have even 1/10 of the amount of the people who were going out to fight for the democracy. Come on with us to the West Bank. a big amount of this violence and displacement would not happen. Yes, we are actively recruiting all the time. One of our biggest goals in Bnei Avraham, and I believe in our other group, is all the time to double the numbers of people who are coming to the West Bank. And this is why we have the Midrasha, the institution. People need to go through a process in order that at the end point, they will have the mitzvah to go do protective presence. The right wing is doing the same all the time. They're doubling the amount of people in the outpost and hanging and doing Shabbat there. Every month, they are doubling it.
Others? Yeah, here, Mohawk sweatshirt.
So that was a perfect segue to my question, which is about engaging with Israeli Jews. My experience is that there's enormous resistance and even a sense of betrayal, both in those personal relationships with friends and family who don't understand why we are going to the West Bank, but then also just culturally. And so I'm curious how, like, what that engagement looks like and where you find hope in the enormous waves of resistance among other Jewish Israelis.
Oh, yeah, so I feel, tell me if this is correct, but that the question is basically, how do you face other Jewish Israelis? What is the reaction? The question came from someone who has had intense reactions, negative reactions, but what is the reaction from your friends and family and from your community at large? You live, among Jewish Israelis, and you do this work with Palestinians in the West Bank, and how does your friends and family feel about that? Maybe, do you want to start, and we'll come down this way?
I can say that since October 7, I lost all of my friends, and it's not because I changed my political views or my opinion. They changed. I stayed the same, and they changed. They didn't want to see the Palestinians, the Arabs, as human beings, which I could not do. I could not take away the part of their story from my story, which made a lot of arguments, but I must say that I earned a lot of new friends, and the thing is that I've been told all the time that there is no partner on the other side, there is no one to talk to, and I am the living proof there is, and I'm always saying it, I am the living proof that there is a partner, and then when we stop talking about the other side, like I learned education, so I'm doing it like talking to a little baby. Stop talking about the other side. Let's find inside ourselves, have we did something wrong? Let's ask ourselves the questions that we are afraid to ask. And this thing actually helped me making a lot of conversations, because in the beginning I was angry, and then I realized that in anger it's really hard to make a connection. But when you are talking to the core and telling them, look, listen, leave them alone. You're not living under occupation. You're not having any trouble of movement. You can do anything you want. Let's talk about us, about our responsibility. And this is helping a lot.
Thank you. Maya?
I think it is very hard, like you said, and like all said. And there are things I don't talk about with some people, and we just continue our life because it's family, because it's my partner's family, because it's like very close friends. But I did notice that like people are confused today. Like I think like a lot of people, there's a lot of despair. There's hopelessness. People don't know how the future will look like, and they have these like very empty ideas or like shallow ideas of what should happen. And I think for some of them I did like earn the place of it is hard to argue with the experiences that we bring, I think, because it's experiences of friendships, of like years of being together, of like so many conversations, and like a deep
Relationship.
היכרות, כאילו. היכרות?
Familiarity.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think for many people, it's harder for them to argue with someone that is on the ground than someone that has like political analysis and can write beautiful articles and say things. And I noticed that sometimes it does have an effect in that.
Thank you. Roei, do you want to say how it's affected your relationship?
Yes. So, you know, I think I don't have the privilege to disconnect from my family. My cousin married in Susia, the outpost from there. My other cousin married in an outpost.
And in settlements.
In settlements, yes. In like, I actively decided after the 7th of October not to disconnect from the Israeli society. It's a hard decision. I need to לחרוק שיניים, to
grind my
teeth a lot, and to be patient, and to have a lot of compassion. But I didn't want to lose not my friends and not my family and not the people that I loved and I shared so many experiences with. And I think that the decision I made, it's two parts. And I learned it from the education I grew on. I grew in the extreme right wing, conservative part of the Israeli society. And they had a decision 10 years ago to have a עמוד שדרה ideology, to have an
ideological spine.
Yes, ideological spine, but to settle in the hearts. And that's my goal. I have my ideological spine, but I want to settle in the hearts of the people, because I know that people are born into a position. I was born into a position. When you are born into a position, you don't see everything. And you know that the decision that some people are making is not because they are bad. They have good virtues. They just see a partly picture. So, and two, that people can do tshuva, repairment. And the moment you hold this in your mind, you have much more compassion in every interaction you have. And also, I'm a little bit missionaric. So it means I smile, I want to be very nice, I want to be very kind, but every settler I meet is a potential to do tshuva, and I want to tell him, come, do Shabbat with us. And maybe the last thing that I think is important, and that's also related. This is why like half of my work is protective present, but the other half is the midrasha. And to the midrasha, the people who are coming to learn there are people who fought in Gaza as soldiers, are people whose parents were settlers, are people who lived in outposts. And I believe I really believe deeply that the change will come from those people, because this is how you turn around historical talichim processes. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, we're going to do one more question, and then I'm going to ask a last question. And then we're going to hear from Mickey Gitson, NIF's acting CEO, and then we'll let you go home, okay? Great. So let's do one last question. Yes, right here. Yes, here he's coming over with the microphone.
Hi, thanks. We used to think that this was just a bunch of crazy settlers, but increasingly we read that it's state policy in Israel, with the army. I mean, to what extent do you think that if there is a change of government, inshallah, in late September or October, that this it might be possible to end this with a new government, or from what you say about the yeshivas, and then in the hands of local officers, Katsinim, and is it going to be really hard to stop this because it's so embedded in the local ideology and the army?
Before you guys answer, I'm just going to remind everyone that NIF is a 501c3. Where's Jen? This is my moment. There you are. I don't know where she is. There she is. NIF is a 501c3, which means we don't participate in partisan politics. But we really appreciate the question, and I encourage you guys, if you have a good opinion, no, an interesting opinion, something to say, to answer, but answer in your personal capacities only. So just as yourselves, not as representatives of NIF. Does that make sense? Okay. So the question was twofold, right? It was, number one, could elections actually change something on the ground and the settler violence and that you guys are seeing, number one. Number two was, can anything stop this, right?
Anything.
Yeah, basically, can anything stop this violence? Or is it too embedded in the institutions and the culture of the settlements? Maya, you want to start?
I can start. First of all, I want to say that it has to end. Like it's gonna end sometime. Maybe not soon, but it's just it won't keep on that way. And I think what we're doing, what we are doing in Protective Presence is basically two things. One is the grassroots work of building networks of solidarity and of educating people in order to have this long-term change. And the second one is slowing down the expulsion, slowing down the settlers, making their, the settlers and the government, making their work much harder. So when a change will come from outside, there will be more Palestinians in their lands, there will be more, less refugees, less land being lost. So I think the new, if inshallah the government will be changed, I don't think we'll see a solution from the new government, but I think we will see a slow, we'll see a slowdown. How do you say it? And I think that does give hope also to Palestinians, but it's not, I don't think that's the external change that will really shift everything. But I don't know what your...
Oh, do you have something to add? If not, that's okay, you don't have to.
I think the only way, it's never only, but one of the most important things is the change inside of the Israeli society. Inside, it doesn't, and I'm saying it as a Mizrahi Jew, because I think the Mizrahi Jews have a lot of burden there. לוקחים איתם, yes, they're carrying with them the burden from the past, and I think that recognition, both Palestinians and the suffer that the Mizrahi Jews had when they brought to Israel in the beginning, is also one of the things that we need to put in the education system. For example, me, I never learned in any, across my 12 years at school, I never learned about the history of my family. They took me in age of 16 to Poland. So this is also a thing that creates a lot of bitterness in the Mizrahi Jews community. And it also, this process spread over years, and I think we can see it now. And I'm talking a lot with the Mizrahi Jews, and I'm talking a lot with people and telling them my story, my father's story, and trying to find the connection between me and the Mizrahi Jew I'm talking to tell him, listen, they only gave the power they gave you the power to just, you can be able to use it to oppress somebody else. And it's not an equal power to
Succeed.
yeah.
Thank you. The last question from me, is what gives you hope? Why do you keep doing this work? Is there someone who wants to start? I'll start, and I'll say that you all give me hope. It is an honor for us to be listening to you and to hear what you have to say and to see you and get to know you and see you put your bodies on the line and hear the incredible and incredibly compassionate work that you do and how much of your soul on top of your physical presence you bring with you to this work.
I think what gives me hope is that my activism is not an individual activism. I'm part of a group, a community. We form it, we grow it. I go away, I walk this way with people. Many of those people grew like me. And it gives me hope to know that people who grew like me are doing this way with me, and I'm not doing it alone. And we feel it a lot. It's like one of the concepts we do a lot in Bnei Avraham, we call it Shabbatot Nochechut Megena, protective presence Shabbat. What does it mean? You know, I think many of you know, and any Jew, especially when you don't have kids, you ask yourself where I am on Shabbat and who I'm going to be with. And then when we started this concept, we started inviting people to do Shabbat with Kabbalat Shabbat, with a hot plate, with with everything, with Dvar Torah after the prayer in the morning, but in a village, in a Palestinian village. And every time we do this, I participate in a Shabbat like this. I finish, even if we face horrible reality and violence, when we do the Havdalah together, and always I think you told it yesterday that like all the Palestinians in Ras El El, they know to sing the Havdalah because of us already, all the songs. So when we do the Havdalah together at the end of Shabbat, it gives me a lot of power, and that's what's giving me the hope.
Amazing.
I think for me it's similar. Like I said, when we started, we were a very small group that did this, and I think seeing today that there's a movement of people that are doing this job, and that the concept of being in the West Bank, fighting for Palestinian rights became mainstream in at least the left, but also center in Israel, and the fact that something happened, like suddenly something happens, we are on the ground, and something happens that is a daily thing for us. I don't know, a settler kicked a dog, and suddenly it's on the news, and you're like on the ground, you're there in Masafayata, and you're like dealing with the anger of the things you just experienced or saw, and suddenly it is shared with other citizens of Israel. And I think there is something like those moments when you see that it's going outside, people are sharing this with you, and it didn't happen in the beginning. It gives me a lot of hope, and I think gives a lot of people like power in this work.
Thank you.
One of the things there's a lot of things that gives me a hope, because if they weren't, I probably would sit home crying. But one of the things that gives me hope is to see those suddenly those people that are in power in a kind of a way, that starting to change and talk about the things more, and are having the courage to do, to go against the consensus, and
Do you mean people who are like people in power, or people who have privilege?
both. It's probably both.
Yeah.
But for example, 2 days ago, I read about Nimrod Shefer, that he was מפקד חיל האוויר. I don't.
The former commander of the Israeli Air Force.
Yes, back then. And he went to Ramallah to meet with Jibril Rajoub. And I know it's not like something tomorrow, that's it, there's going to be a Palestinian state and we're all going to dance together and be happy. But those small steps and those moment of courage, of leadership courage, which all of us take as individuals and as a groups, and to see it coming from people that can actually build impact, a movement, or even started to move something in people's heads, that's gives me a lot of hope.
Amazing. Yes. Katan.
Something little that I had to, it popped to me. I think, we are facing extreme reality as people who grow in Israel. A lot of violence, a lot of pain, a lot of bad things is happening, not only in the news, also on the street or with your family members. And when you sit at home, you feel hopeless. And there is not a lot of things that you can do. But I think that taking action gives hope. The fact that you can take an action and do something, wake up in the morning, go in the car and go to the West Bank, this small moment of actually doing, it gives a lot of hope. And it reminds me the Mishnah of Avot. It says, לא עליך המלאכה לגמור, ואין אתה בן חורים להיבטל ממנה. It's not on you to finish the job, but you are not free from not doing it. And that's something that leads me a lot in my activism.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we're going to hear from Mickey Gitzen, acting CEO of the New Israel Fund.
Hello, everyone. Such a privilege and great moment to be here. Really, thank you all, Maya, Roei, Jasmine. Thank you so much for the great work. I really feel like we sensed it for a moment, right? We felt like we were there with them. I want to start with a story as well. 3 years ago, NIF gave a prize that we call Truth to Power to a person called Nasser Nawaja. Nasser is an activist, we all know him, from Susia. And he's really one of the trailblazers of this movement of Palestinians and Israelis who protect their communities. And Nasser told me a story that stays with me. In the Second Intifada, a settler was killed next to Susia. And the army came and arrested all the men, and settler came and burned the entire village. Nasser was arrested for 3 days and nights. He was in prison, although he had nothing to do with the occasion. And when he was there in prison, face down, he kind of made a decision, that's it. He's going to join the resistance. He's going to join violent action against Israeli Jews because enough is enough. And the moment Nasser came back from this moment of being in prison, he comes back to his village of Susia and he sees people he's never seen before. He don't know who are the people. He doesn't know who are the people. Rebuilding the village. And he comes closer and starts talking to the people, and apparently those are Israeli Jews who are rebuilding the village that was just burned. And this moment kind of changed the trajectory of his life from a person that considered violence to a person that was persistent in peace-seeking. Because he said the people who burned this village were Israeli Jews, but also the people who just built or rebuilt this village were also Israeli Jews. And this moment was the moment that he actually joined one of the human rights organizations that we support. And I think that these people who stand here with us or sit with us represent something that we want to show to these communities, to the world in which we work, as those group of Israelis who actually work and do action in order to present different face of the same Jewish community. Because every time when you read the newspaper and you read about settler violence, there are people, like the people who are sitting here, who do protective presence just next to them. They're also part of the story. These are the people that we're so proudly have been supporting in the last few years. That's the story of the new creation, of the Israel HaChadasha, of the new Israel that we want to build. And I think that the moment you realize that the story is complex, and there are people who are telling different stories, this is the moment that you start giving up on despair and join action. And action in this room can definitely be joining us at the New Israel Fund, supporting our work, thinking about how we help to grow this movement. Because 5 years ago, I would never believe that the NIF would support protective presence. We were about policy change, right? We were about legal work. But when we understood from the people on the ground that part of the regular work that we've been doing doesn't work anymore, we didn't freeze. We changed. We brought people like Maya onto our staff. And this is the moment that we need your support too, to continue the work that we're doing, to grow the work that we're doing. As our friend just told us, it's not only about keeping the good work, it's about growing it. We are waiting for the moment that 10,000, 30,000, 50,000 Israelis will up on buses and come to the West Bank. This is the moment that change will happen. And we are working towards this change. And I sense it, because I was in activism for quite a long time, that this day is not far from happening. Because again, 5 years ago, or 3 years ago, or even 1 year ago, we would not have the same amount of people doing protective presence. The last thing I want to offer you is join us for a tour on the ground, coming to Israel and Palestine, see the work in your own eyes. Nothing, despite the fact that I just said we felt it, right? But nothing can feel the same as seeing the work on the ground. We're going to be holding a trip in October, and then another one, and then another one. Jasmine is here to answer all your questions about our travel. Really need you. And I think that as protective presence is done in community, our work is also done in community. And this is our community. So thank you so much for your support and for being here. And we know that all of us together can make change on the ground, and we'll tell ourselves a story, or at least to our grandchildren, that we were part of the change that is coming. So thank you very much. Laila Tov.